Hello, friends. We are live, and I wanted to spend this week talking through my quarterly planning process. And I had originally intended to do it in a very like linear project management, like very type A personality kind of thing. Because I've just been thinking about every season change. I spend somewhere in the ballpark of a week, like really trying to hammer out the things that I'd like to accomplish in the quarter. So I was thinking about doing videos in a very like accomplishment centered way. But based on some conversations I had with friends today, I felt like it would be more appropriate to start from an inner level. So I want to share a story, and hopefully it'll illustrate a point. Just maybe give you something to think about. It's something I've thought about a lot. So when I was younger, so when I was a teenager, when I was in my 20s, I identified as a procrastinator, and my friends identified me as a procrastinator. It was just like a part of my identity. I had a little bit of a perfectionist streak, and I have some, just good stories on that. But I wanted to juxtapose that with now. Anyone who's met me probably in the last 2 years or so would label me as an action oriented person. I'm a person who does things, which is like the opposite of a procrastinator. So, people who did not know me then and who know me now see me like opposite way that people used to see me. So when I was in my like procrastinating heyday, when I was a teenager, especially, I have memories of turning in class projects like like a week late because I wanted to just get it right. So, for example, I remember for one class, I think it was a history class, and it was typical of my nature to turn a written history assignment into creating a comic. I did this a couple times. It wasn't my only class assignment equals comic situation. But it took me a lot longer than I'd originally. First of all, I left it till like the last day, so I didn't start working on this comic until like the very last day. So procrastinating, ethos number one: leave things to like absolute last possible minute. But then when that day was over, I had not finished my comic because I wanted it to be awesome and amazing. So I worked on this thing. I labored over it for like a week. And then I finally turned it in when the teacher was not expecting me to turn anything in at that point. I was not a very good student, so there wasn't like a high expectation in that regard. Now, the one time I did this, I had a teacher who just omitted my late mark entirely because they were like, this is absolutely fabulous, and they used it as an example in their future classrooms. I had another teacher who mercilessly gave me a zero because it was like, okay, this is good, but it doesn't matter, it wasn't on time. So there was like pros and cons on both sides of it, and both sides were totally fair. But I'm just saying this to say that I used to be the kind of person who would do those things, and now it's the opposite. It would be I don't think anyone that I know right now would like even think about using that as a label on me. So it got me thinking, what ways do I describe myself now that perhaps like 5 years in the future, people would like never think to describe me that way? Or what traits do I really wish I had that I don't have, that people wouldn't describe me as, that I wouldn't describe myself as, that 5 years from now, people, oh yeah, Allysia, she's so blank. And it just got me thinking a little bit more expansively. So, say you had an issue with confidence. Say you feel like an insecure person, you're not very confident. So you have like a label, whether it's external or internal. You're labeling yourself as as not confident, as insecure. What if 5 years from now, everyone who met you was like, oh yeah, Susie, she's like super confident. Um, it's a total it first of all, it's absolutely possible and realistic, and it's happened to me in a multitude of ways. So another label that I never used to identify with, but I always wanted to have, that people in my life now are starting to kind of assign me the label, and I'm starting to assign myself, more importantly, the label is courage. So courage, I'm a person of many fears, and I've gone through some darker periods with like quite a bit of anxiety. So now that I identify as courageous, which is the opposite of how I used to feel, just like with procrastination, it's like, okay, so we're not set. We don't have this predetermined set of characteristics that we have, that we're just born with. Some of us have like a different mix of things. But if you are not confident, you aren't doomed to be not confident forever. It's not like a set, it's a flexible, moldable characteristic. So I was just thinking, what are those characteristics that I carry, or what, even more importantly, 5 years from now, what are those characteristics that I would really want people to describe me as, and then kind of work backwards. It's like, okay, how do I do that? How do I transform from being a procrastinator to an action oriented person, such that I identify with that label and I don't identify with the procrastinator label anymore? And I didn't go through this with procrastinating. I didn't go through it consciously. Over like a long period of time, I basically just got more used to taking action despite all my like alarm bells going off about like, my perfectionism alarm bells and all of that. Part of procrastinating and overcoming that was also being comfortable, or also just doing what I cared about, because doing what I care about is it I don't usually procrastinate on things that I feel really strongly about. So back then, I didn't feel really strongly about doing school assignments, so I had to like make a comic out of it in order to make it fun and interesting for me to do. But if the thing that I'm doing is something that I'm like fired up by or inspired by, then it's a lot easier to not leave it till the last minute. So I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah. So I was thinking, okay, so I didn't go through this conscious process of like learning how to take more action. I just sort of did. I just, even though like, so for example, when I release a course, it freaks me out. It scares me. I'm putting myself out there. What if everyone hates it? What if I do my best and my best isn't good enough? Or like I go through a lot of fear resistance, but I do it anyway. So I've gotten really used to taking action, even if I feel scared. Actually, doing these live videos is an example of that, because every time I hit the go live button, I'm like, I get a little bit of like a fear lurch, and I'm always glad I just hit the button and took action instead of like, I'm not gonna do this actually. So I was thinking if there was a way to apply that more consciously. So instead of just not paying attention, it's like, okay, how would I actually want to define myself? What are the characteristics that I would want to have? And how do I get there? How do I consciously move in that direction? So thinking about like, so courage is really important to me. I'd love to, I would love to I would love to have like some kind of financial success. I'd like to identify with that label. I've never identified with any type of money label. So this is one of my limiting frames. So I have confidence. That's not one that I lack, but I don't have I don't place a high value on money, and it's not that I want to. It's not that I want to like, oh, money is like so important to chase. But my relationship with money is such that I don't really like put any like a whole lot of energy into pursuing it. But at the same time, I would like to have like a higher quality of life for my family and stuff like that. So I would like to, like, 5 years from now, that would be a cool label to be able to identify with, like someone who who runs their own business that helps people, and is like financially prolific or something, as opposed to someone who's just like, I identify with like the poor person in some ways, because I spent like all of my 20s basically like working low paying jobs, except for when I decided to be a piano teacher. But even then, I worked, like, I was generally doing like 20-hour weeks. So it's not like I was, abundantly wealthy at any point in my life. I think like last year was the first year of my entire adult life where I made like a median income, like a low median income. So that would be for me like a really interesting label to shift, from like the poor person who like scrounges to the wealthier person successful. So another shift that I want to keep leaning into is that of like transparency, or like honesty. So I would want people to say of me, or I would want to feel of myself that I'm able to be like open and vulnerable without fear of being judged. Like, oh, Allysia, she's there's a lot of people who don't like her, or I want people to like me, but I would love to be at a point where it doesn't hurt me if someone says a negative comment on YouTube or something. So like on Piano TV, if someone leaves a comment that's like is a little bit harsh, which happens a lot, It gets to me. Like, it really gets to me. It gets under my skin. I dwell on it. That person who's writing that comment thinks about it for like 2 minutes and then never again. It's like done. But then for me, I'm like stuck with it. I roll it over and over in my head. Is this true? If I missed, like, am I? Even if there's like partial truth in it, it's kind of poison to get. It's like my self-worth. I don't want my self-worth to be connected to what random people on the internet think of me. I want to be okay with negativity, because that just comes with the territory. Anytime you create anything, whether it be like a live video or a course, or like recorded videos, or any kind of art, writing, anytime you express something and put it out there, there is the chance that there's going to be negative feedback. And in fact, the more people who see it, it's inevitable that there's going to be negative feedback. That just comes with the territory of self-expression. So I'd love to, like 5 years from now, be at a point where I don't have like an emotional, an emotional reaction. Like, it doesn't pull at my self-identity when someone says something negative. When I don't sink into this, oh my goodness, it's true, and I like bring it into my identity, and I start like questioning. So maybe it is a confidence issue. Maybe that's part of it. But I was just a thought experiment, and something for maybe you to think about, and something that I'm thinking about is, we have these like beliefs about ourselves. Like, I'm a procrastinator. I'm fearful. I don't take risks. I'm safe. Like, I play it safe, or like I'm sensitive and easily hurt. These are all like flexible and maneuverable. So if you have a particular trait that you don't want, or if you have a particular trait that you do want, it's like totally possible to become that type of person, to such an extent that everyone would identify, like everyone who matters, like the people who love you, would see you as that. Or in the negative traits that you don't want anymore, they're not going to see that. Like, that's like a huge transformation that all of us can have. So I guess I just want to approach it a little bit more consciously. And that was something that I was thinking about today. So I just wanted to share that with you. And you can always feel free to let me know in the comments if there's any like trait that you'd like to shift or transform, or if there's some like trait that you would like to like aspire towards, that you would like people to see you as. And then maybe from there we can figure out how to actually make that happen. So anyway, thank you so much for joining, and I'll catch you guys